This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You are watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
Right, so I've had the information for this video on my laptop for about 2, maybe 3 weeks now, and I've forgotten about it, if I'm being brutally honest. Until today, I get a message from Sonny, so big up to Sonny over on Twitter, to direct me to a video where Eddie Hearn, he's talking about the pay-per-view model is dying in America, and it kind of reminded me that I've actually got this information to do this video. So I thought, you know what, let's just do this video now. Now, we're talking about pay-per-views. Of course, we're talking about pay-per-views in America. And I'm going to be doing this on a 12-month period. Bearing in mind, the world has gone through a bit of a crisis, hasn't it? Of course, in America and that as well, where a lot of people lost their jobs, they lost loved ones and whatever else. Okay, so money's not quite going to be the same. And you would have thought that the platforms would have been a bit more lenient as to what goes on to pay-per-view, a bit more selective as to what goes on to pay-per-view and what doesn't. Do they care? Quite clearly not. Because within a 12-month period, of course, we're talking from September of 2020 to September 2021 of this year, so a 12-month, a 1-year period, United States of America, boxing fans, on top of your subscriptions for DAZN, which is $100 for a year, and $50 a year for your ESPN. I don't know how much you pay for your Showtime and Fox, even if you do, I have no idea. But you've got your pay-per-views as well, just for boxing. Just the pay-per-views alone, $860. Let's go through them. 13 pay-per-views within a 1-year period. Charlo vs. Derevchenko was in September of last year. Gervonta Tank Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz, that was in October. Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. You got Errol Spence Jr. versus Danny Garcia. You got Jake Paul versus Ben Askren. You got Andy Ruiz Jr. versus Chris Arreola. Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul. Tank Davis versus Mario Barrios. So they're all the ones that you've had, but of course it's not finished yet because we're not up to September. By the time September rolls around, Manny Pacquiao versus Errol Spence Jr. Teofimo Lopez versus George Kambosos. Potentially Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder Part 3, if of course they get this fight on in September. I'm hearing that maybe it might happen in October, so of course that will go outside the 12-month period. You've got Jake Paul versus, was it Tyron Woodley or something like that? And you've got, as we're hearing over the last 48 hours, Canelo Alvarez versus Caleb Plant. So the PBC want that fight and to put it on pay-per-view. So what they want is to put that fight onto a pay-per-view platform and charge you $85, maybe even $100, we don't know. Or, rather than leave it on DAZN, where it's part of your annual subscription. Even if you're not subscribed to DAZN and just want to watch that fight, $20. But that's what Al Heyman and the PBC want to do, put it on probably Fox or Showtime pay-per-view. 13 pay-per-views, $860. $860. Bearing in mind as well, Charlo versus Castano this weekend is not pay-per-view, that's an undisputed fight. Josh Taylor versus Jose Ramirez, undisputed, was also not pay-per-view. Now for me, when you look at what's pay-per-view and what isn't, at the end of the day, do you need a world title on the line or anything? Not necessarily. A pay-per-view fight is a pay-per-view fight if enough of you click the button. So why do they do it? Because enough of you click the button, quite clearly. That's why they do it over and over again. Do they care how much a fighter makes? Not really. And I think one of the reasons why they're doing pay-per-view is because they don't want to overpay their fighters. What I mean by that is, you put a fighter on pay-per-view, they get a cut of whatever the pay-per-view sales are. So if a fighter does very well with pay-per-view numbers, they don't get paid very well. If they don't do very well with the numbers, well, they don't get paid so well. That way, they don't have to guarantee somebody X amount of money and it potentially flopping. That's why they put a lot of them on pay-per-view. I mean, that should be pretty obvious to most. But of course, a lot of these fights, if we look at what a pay-per-view would normally mean, what fights are these a pay-per-view? Would you say Tank Davis versus Mario Barrios was a pay-per-view worthy fight? Absolutely not. And the numbers showed you that as well. 200,000 allegedly. That's poor. Very, very poor. And I heard some people say, but it's not because of Tank Davis, it's because of Mario Barrios. He's not really a well-known fighter. Right, well, you've just answered your own question. He's not a pay-per-view fighter. the numbers will reflect that. Tank Davis needs somebody in the other corner to do well. Bearing in mind, this is a Tank Davis with the power of Floyd Mayweather behind him. And he still couldn't do that well. Pacquiao versus Spence, I think that's a pretty decent pay-per-view worthy fight. But again, is Pacquiao shot to bits? We don't know. We really don't know. Fury versus Wilder 3. We've seen that fight twice already. Why did you see it a third time for? Canelo vs Plant, undisputed. If that ends up on Fox or Showtime pay-per-view, I could probably agree that's a pay-per-view fight. I think the Charlo vs Derevchenko, was that fight pay-per-view? On its own, no, but the entire card was pay-per-view worthy, in my opinion. Mike Tyson vs Roy Jones Jr. for a one-off nostalgia, $50. Okay, why not? The Jake Pauls and the Logan Pauls and everything, are they pay-per-view? Well, they are if you're willing to pay for it. Is it real boxing? Not really, but still. $860 within a 1 year period, United States of America, just on the pay-per-view alone. So if you're a boxing fan and you want to watch all these fights, well over $1,000. Somebody somewhere is getting done, right? Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe, catch you on the next video.